Now, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, has announced the addition of 17 oil blocks to its 2024 oil bid round. The Nigeria 2024 licensing round counts with 36 blocks located across onshore Niger Delta, the continental shelf, and deep offshore. In accordance with the guidelines, some of the blocks must be applied for clusters. The NUPRC also reopened the commercial bid for the 2022-2023 licensing round to allow investors to take advantage of improved fiscal incentives approved by the Nigerian government to foster and encourage further investment in the Nigerian upstream sector. In January 2024, the NUPRC set a target to increase the country's oil and condensate production from an estimated 1.6 million barrels per day in 2023 to 1.8 million barrels per day in 2024 and to 2.6 million barrels per day by 2026. We want to cross over to Nigeria now and speak with a senior energy consultant, Dr. Wisdom Enang, to get the latest on these bidding rounds. He joins us via Zoom. Doctor, good evening and welcome to Energy 101.
Good evening, Emmanuel. Thank you very much for having me.
Right. So before we even go deep into the interview, have you achieved, or has Nigeria achieved the targets, the estimated targets for 2024? It projected 1.8 million barrels per day. Is it what it's getting now?
No, we haven't achieved it, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. I think we have improved our production, I think to about 1.5 million barrels per day by just tackling theft, crude oil theft. We will do a bit more when we are able to improve our facility reliability so that we can bring in a lot more of those, crude into the facilities and then flow them into our lines. Then the other thing that we need to do to get to 1.8 is to ensure that we carry out what we call primary interventions. A lot of the wells flow on their legacy reservoir pressure. And so as the well or the reservoir gets older, it tends to lose that pressure. So things like gas lift and gas injection are some of the ideas that we would see as we begin to optimize our production towards achieving 1.8 million barrels, which is the target for 2024.
All right. Now, so tell us about the offshore bidding, the blocks, the blocks which have been bidded. 36 blocks were offered for bidding. Can you explain to us which ones were successful and to what extent will this impact the petroleum sector of Nigeria?
Okay, so I'll just give you, I think 36 blocks may be available, but what has been offered are 12 new greenfield oil blocks and about 7 deep offshore blocks from the 2022-2023 bid round. Now, it is interesting to know the one from the 2022-2023 bid round was, postponed because of the elections that came, and of course, led to the swearing in of a new government. So, overall, we're looking at 19 oil blocks out of that 36 that is available, but 19 is being put on offer at the moment. So, what do we expect? We do expect the process to last about 9 months. What do we expect? There's no discretionary award of licenses right now, so everyone has to go into a competitive, transparent, fair, equitable bidding process. And then what do we else expect? I think at the moment Nigeria is trying to remove a lot of the front-end load on the investors, which is things like the signing bonuses have been reduced from the maximum of about $200 million to about $10 million right now. And the idea is to now shift that front-end load that is quite difficult for a lot of investors to fund, then put them into a sort of a target. Then after you funded the 10 million signing bonus, you then have a timeline within which you have to develop your assets. And there are certain milestones across those timelines. And if at any time you're found wanting and you've gone beyond the timeline for that particular milestone, then you lose your license. So it's more like saying the money you would have used to pay the upfront bonus, which of course you will still have to develop the assets, put it quickly into developing the assets. So I think Nigeria is trying to, substitute a signing bonus more for a production bonus, because ultimately, they want to be, have a little part of something quite big, which is when you get to produce. Because I think there's been a realization that a lot of the licenses don't get to production, they're very stuck at the stage of paying their signature bonus and never get beyond that. I think the idea of the new administration is how do we get into the production level so that we can boost Nigeria's reserves and production quota.
Now, I don't know whether you've chanced on some, data, but according to what I just read, out of the 36 blocks located around onshore Niger Delta, the continental shelf, and deep offshore, I know that Nigeria has been involved in oil production, oil exploration for quite a long time relative to its peers, on the continent. But would you say that these blocks are still prolific? I mean, they are so promising with, adequate, crude oil reserves?
Yes, absolutely. Because I'll give you context, right? A lot of the bid rounds that we've had has been brownfield, and brownfield simply means either some of the companies, the IOCs that produced them, developed those fields, felt that they did not have enough crude production that would be able to justify their operational expenses on those assets, and so they decided to cap it and keep it in place. Or these assets were built and they couldn't quite flow it without a primary or secondary intervention, and so it was kept in place. Now, the level of maximization, and in some cases, the third scenario is where we have the IOCs have produced this field for a while and they don't want to produce anymore because the operating costs is not at the level that they can justify with their profit margins that they're looking at, and so they want to discard this. I'll give it to a national oil and gas company which operates with quite a smaller footprint. Now, if you look at that narrative for the brownfield fields that we've had, you'll find out that if that is interesting enough, even when the fields sometimes have been used for many, many years, in upwards of 30 years, then of course you find out that the green fields that are being on offer now, and especially the deep water fields, are more prolific in terms of production. The only thing is that you have to deploy a much more expensive technology, but the rewards are quite big because historically the deep water, which is essentially what this whole bid round is about, has more volumes and is actually more safer from the perspective of security. Because the deeper you get, the harder it is for some of the pirates to reach that region, and so you have a safer production profile. And that is actually true because a lot of the companies in Nigeria, the IOCs, are leaving their production in the onshore and the shallow water and getting deep water because it's much safer. So I think the level of production that we're going to get, I'm quite excited. It's going to be a lot, but the deep water has its own technical challenges that has to be surmounted for us to be able to get that level of production that we're looking at.
Now, finally, before you go, I mean, I know that the government of Nigeria is trying to increase, volumes. That's by way of a daily production of oil. Now, but has it also reviewed its fiscal, incentives, policies in any way to speed up this particular target?
Yeah, so I mean, we have done the competitiveness assessment, and the competitiveness assessment as a country is what we're looking at, saying what are the impedances to the investments, getting investments, and that's usually very typical, the front loading of the costs for such investments. And so the government had tried to say, rather than having a signature bonus of 200 million, let's have 10 million. Now, the other thing that the government has done is see, okay, what can we do to help some of these people who are coming in to, invest in terms of from an administrative standpoint. So there's been a presidential directive that has actually looked at how can we reduce the contracting cycle and the licensing cycle. What can we do to quicken this? I mean, we can't give things free, but what we can do is to kind of make sure that our competitiveness is at parity or even better than what is being offered by our contemporaries in terms of the same oil sites that we have and the same sort of operating environment. And that's exactly what Nigeria is doing. And it's a very developing case because as the bid round progress, I can assure you that we're going to have a town hall sort of discussion that would mean that the government might look at putting forward more fiscal incentives to sort of, so as an icing on the cake, to attract the interest of investors in the Nigerian bid round.
Right. Thank you very much. Dr. Wisdom Enang is a senior energy consultant who joined me via Zoom from Nigeria. It's a live on Energy 101.